What's going on, guys? Zuko back with another Dragonflight video. Grab your coffees. I hope you're all having a wonderful day. Merry Christmas to all you people who, it's day after Christmas now, but if I missed you yesterday, Merry Christmas to you. Let's talk about the Ruby Life Pools. I'm going to get into this dungeon in a second. I'm going to show you my build in a second. I want to go over basically how to run this dungeon in general, because this has been a big struggle for people, the Ruby Life Pools, and also how to run it as a Shadow Priest, what you can bring to the table. Obviously, the things we talk about all the time, like Mass Dispel and shields and healing and dispersion and all the good stuff that can help you survive, help your team survive. Really, really good stuff there. So let me jump into the build first of all. It's a similar build that I've been running this entire week, basically, which has been to say we're doing a no idle build, and we've been affectionately calling it the meme build. I had somebody talk about it in my YouTube comments yesterday. The basic tenets of it are that you're running a Shadow Word Death Inescapable Torment build, and you're weaving in Mind Spike as your filler. So you don't ever press Mind Flay, and you're not taking Mind Flay Insanity. So you're not running things like Dark Evangelism, you're not running Screams of the Void, you're not running Cthulhu, okay? That's kind of the channeling setup. If you wanted to go for a channeling build, you want to go Insanity plus Evangelism and Void and Cthulhu. Instead, we're running Pain of Death, we're running Deathspeaker, we're running Mind Spike and Mind Melt, which is something that a lot of people haven't taken. If you didn't know, last week the buffs came in for Shadow Priest that gave 20% extra damage to Mind Spike and a whole bunch of other spells, but Mind Spike was one of the big ones that was there. 20% more damage, which means you're getting 20% of that damage also pushed into Psychic Link damage. So it all kind of works together, and it funnels into this exact build right here that we're going to run. So this is a Mindbender build with Shadow Word Death. A couple things on the class side that are always really important. Remember, always power infusion your friends because of Twist of the Sun Priestess. And things like Void Shield and Vampiric Embrace are going to keep you alive. Like these two buttons right here are absolutely insane in terms of their healing throughput to help keep you alive. Void Shield in particular just makes your Power Word Shield go so much further. Like, instead of it lasting for 5 seconds, 10 seconds, it's going to last for 15, 20 seconds. It lasts for so long. And this is such an if you're not taking this talent right now, you need to be taking it 110%. Excuse me. So that's the build. It's not really too crazy. You're just running this Dark Ascension plus Mindbender into, the Deathspeaker, Shadow Word Death stuff. One important thing to remember is to always try and hit your Shadow Word Deaths within the execute window, because that way your target, if they're below 20% of their max health, it'll give you a reset on Shadow Word Death, and you can cast it twice. And that second cast, of course, is going to trigger your Mindbender a second time, and it's going to trigger Pain of Death damage a second time. So very, very important to do that. Okay? Let's just jump right into the footage, and I'm going to show you the dungeon. Again, I want to talk a lot about the actual Ruby Life Pools themselves and talk exactly on kind of what you should do if you're curious about how to run this dungeon. If you've been failing at running this dungeon, this can be a difficult one to run, and I don't want you guys to feel discouraged from running this. So this is a plus 11 Ruby Life Pools that we did. And it does have the seasonal affix. One thing that's really, really frustrating, and I'm very sorry about this, guys, but I had an add-on. I had a Weak Aura that put the seasonal affix on my screen. You're going to see it in right now. And it's actually covering details a little bit. So I apologize in advance for that. The next video that I do won't have that. But this is an interesting Weak Aura. It helps you to see who still has the seasonal affix on them if you need to clear it. Because this has been a huge problem that I've been hearing from a ton of people is, I can't see my seasonal affix. I have no idea whether it's on. It's just this tiny little icon above my head, and it's so frustrating. That happens to me often, or I will be really busy with 100 other things that are going on in the middle of my screen, and I'm not noticing that there is a symbol above my head that's about to detonate and do 50% of my health in damage. So just if you want help with that kind of stuff, I can link the Weak Aura down below. I'll have to find it, and I will try and link it for you guys down below. It just puts the seasonal affix on your screen, and it allows you to see it better. One thing to talk about, again, for this week is bursting. You can see on our raid frames right now, we have 3 stacks of bursting on everybody. Remember, you can mass dispel this. You can always mass. I'm going to do it right now. There we go. It's all gone. I actually waited a little bit too long there, but it becomes really, really important to mass dispel stuff when there's like 5, 6 stacks of the bursting in particular. So this first section of the Ruby Life Pools right here, this is really important. You don't ever want to go to the left side here. You basically want to avoid all this stuff. Don't ever go over here, okay? You want to hug the right side wall and kill all the ads that are over here. And as you progress through, you obviously need to be very careful that you don't touch any of the dragon eggs that are also sitting along the edges. So be very, very aware of that, and don't press any of those eggs. Also, you just have to be extremely careful with your targeting. Don't tab target to an enemy off in the distance. I've done that a few times, and it's such a nightmare. I actually do it later in this dungeon, and I'll show you that when we get there. I think I do another Mass Dispel here, right here. See, everybody has 3 stacks of bursting. Boom, Mass Dispel. Really, really important to press that. Make sure as well that you take the talent that reduces the cast time of Mass Dispel. It's called Improved Mass Dispel. It reduces the cooldown by, the cast time, sorry, by 1 second. That is critical to being able to Mass Dispel, like, mid-combat, basically. It's so, so huge to be able to do that. So you just kind of work your way through here. These guys, these Crushers are annoying, these Juggernauts. They're going to put big, like, earthen circles on the ground right there. Excavating Blast will put this big earthquake thing on the ground. You just have to continuously dodge it. This section right here, you're going to watch me. I'm going to jump in between the earth circle and the eggs. Again, you don't want to press the eggs. So the earth circle doesn't do that much damage, but like if you're standing in it when he casts it, it's going to do a lot of damage. Now, once you pull this mini boss, Defier Draghar, you're going to want to pull him through the door because again, you don't want to pull anything over here. You want to avoid all that. So we're going to kill this guy and then we're going to run to the next room. There we go. And you want to fight him kind of in the boss room, basically, because he does this blazing rush. You want to try and bait it. He's always going to basically run to a ranged character. There's the weak aura once again for the seasonal affix. You can see very clearly here who's got it. If you're just looking for the symbol above everybody's head, it's just not as clear. And I'm really hyper-focused on, like, my rotation and getting lots of damage out there and dodging Steel Barrage and dodging this guy's charge and it's just like, it's just one additional thing to look at. The Thundering affix can be really annoying. So, I'll put that weak aura down below. You guys can check it out, okay? But yeah, kill this guy in the boss room. Now, this first boss coming up is probably the most difficult boss in the entire dungeon. She just does a colossal amount of damage. And it's just really, really difficult to understand sometimes how much damage is going to be coming out. And when you need to pop your defensive cooldowns to stay alive, it can be very hard. So I do throw out my AoE ability here as well. So I threw out my Shadow Crash. Now, she is going to spawn ads, and it's very, very important that you have your AoE abilities ready to go when she summons her ads. Another thing you can do, Chill Storm's coming up here. If you have Leap of Faith, I thought I had Leap of Faith here, and so I was pre-positioning myself to go help the person who was putting the tornado down. Chill Storm goes on somebody here, okay? You can grip that person out of the Chill Storm, and I just essentially didn't have Leap of Faith available, and so I ran over here for no reason, but it can be very helpful to pull your allies out of the Chill Storm because the damage that you take from Chill Storm drops off with distance. Now, I don't have Shadow Crash available right this second, so I probably shouldn't have cast it on pull, but I do have a charge of Mind Seer ready to go, so I throw that out right away. I do another Mind Seer into a Shadow Crash, and then we get lots of damage out here on top of the Whelp. So you want to make sure you save your AoE damage to kill the Whelps because they need to die very, very quickly. They'll put a stacking debuff on the tank. You can see Joe has 3 stacks of it right now. That will eventually just freeze him. Now, you can see the seasonal affix went off because we weren't paying attention because there's so many extra things to deal with. And this is the one big frustration that I know everybody has had recently with the seasonal affix is that there's so many other things to worry about in this dungeon, in all the dungeons, and it's just like really annoying having this kiss curse thing going on. So here I do grip the person right here. Oh no, I don't. I grip somebody later. Never mind. That was the shaman. He runs it. I think I get sleep later. I'll check for that. But just remember, you can use all your tools to help your teammates continue to do damage and to keep them out of harm's way. The boss here is going to spawn whelps twice. She will spawn whelps. Here's the awakened whelps number 2. So she will do this twice. Always remember this. After it happens the second time, it's done. It'll never happen again. Okay? So save your AoE abilities to be ready to go You can see we're pumping big AoE damage right here. We got 2 procs. Go stand in the Spirit Link. Keep yourself alive. You're trying to burst through this shield that she has on herself, but really, you just want to make sure you kill those whelps as well. Once the shield is down, she'll stop pulsing that AoE damage. Here comes the seasonal affix once again. And now she's done spawning whelps, okay? She only spawns them twice. So you can use all of your AoE abilities now, you know, for whenever you want, and you don't have to worry about holding those cooldowns. There's the chill storm. I do grip sleep right there. So sleep has to take the chill storm away. He goes all the way over there and drops it out like a good chap, and I pull him back so he can keep doing damage. So again, little tools you can use here and there to help your team continue to do more damage. Sleep is doing the highest damage of this entire group, so I want him to get back to the boss so he can do more damage because he's absolutely pumping right now. Okay, so just keep that kind of stuff in mind. The rest of the fight is very, very easy, basically. Once the whelps are dead, the 2 packs of whelps, it's very simple for the rest of the fight. You don't really have to do that much. You just have to put those hailstorms on the side and just survive. That's all you got to do. So that boss fight, it can be very, very difficult to do. It takes a lot of practice. Make sure you're popping your cooldowns when you have to do the chill storm. If you have to go drop it off, run as far from the group as you can and then pop a defensive. Something like dispersion would be very, very helpful there. Make sure at least to put a power word shield on yourself to make sure that you survive that initial hit when it goes down. So then we get to the upper ring. This is a place where a lot of people struggle as well. There's just a lot of damage going out in this upper ring before you get to the second boss. These dragons in particular are so deadly. You need to be very careful. They do their breath ability very, very soon after you engage them. So just remember that. Be very, very careful about where they're breathing. If they're breathing on you, you are going to die within like maybe 1 to 2 GCDs. Here comes the second breath, I think, from the third. He's right on top of me. I got to get out of the way. They have a pretty wide breath as well, so it's not like just a small cone. It's a pretty wide breath, so just get right out of the way or else you're in trouble. Once again, the thundering goes off because we're just distracted with other things. I struggle with this mechanic just as much as the next guy, so don't worry. If you guys are getting caught with the thundering affix, don't worry about it. Just continue to work on it, and I'll give you that weak aura. I'm actually going to move the weak aura into a more central part of my screen so that when the thundering goes off, I'll be able to see it very, very clearly, and I'll be able to clear my buff because right now I'm just noticing that I'm getting caught multiple times not actually getting rid of my thundering buff, and that's a huge mistake for me. So really important to have all that information centralized so that you can see exactly what you need to do. Now, one important ability, these Flame Dancers do Flame Dance, wouldn't you know. You can run up and fear them. You can Psychic Scream them. I think I've already used my Psychic Scream. What did I use it on? I think I interrupted somebody right there. So I shouldn't have actually used it here. I should have used it on these Flame Dancers because they do a lot of extra damage. As a Shadow Priest, unfortunately, your kick is very, very long, so you need to use your other tools. But you can interrupt these Flame Dances here, and you really do need to, because they end up doing so much extra damage. The healer was just popping right off here, like doing crazy amounts of healing. He was doing a really, really good job. But we need to interrupt those Flame Dances. Those are so important to interrupt. If you don't get them, you're in a lot of trouble. So one other thing to think about as a Shadow Priest up here is that you can, once these guys die, where do they go? These Primalists, these Flame Dancers, once they die, they put a shield on themselves and they go out in a blaze of glory. You can dispel this shield with your Dispel Magic ability, this green-looking skull ability on your icon bar here. You can just dispel the shield and they will immediately die and stop doing Blaze of Glory, which is very good for the team because it means that less damage is going to potentially hit you. They send out all those little fire bolts that are hitting the ground. So just another thing to keep in mind as a Shadow Priest, you can add that, just a very quick Dispel Magic, and boom, you're on your way. Okay? So I'm going to push forward to the next boss. Remember that there's a lot of damage going off in this fight. One final piece that I'll let you know is that this flame circle that gets put on one of your allies, you can actually bring it in and knock up the enemies as well. It knocks up allies and enemies. So this guy, watch this. He's going to detonate in a second. 3, 2, 1. It's going to go off. These enemies are going to go up in the air. Boom. There they go. So you can interrupt the spells that are being cast from these enemies by using their own flame circle that they've put on you against them. So just keep that in mind as well. Always important to use whatever ability you can to stop enemies from doing damage. Anytime you can help your healer, you got to do it, man. It's very, very good. Here's the fire dragon. Once again, you want to stand outside of the breath. These guys hit so hard. Once you learn like exactly where to dodge and respect the damage of that fire breath from the dragon, this section of the dungeon's actually not that hard at all. Yeah, it's actually just not that hard at all. So just remember to get away from him. Don't try to greed your positioning. Just get away from the breath of the dragons, and you will be okay. Here's the last pack here. We end up almost dying. Look at all the damage coming. I mean, this is insane. Like, you need a really good healer here to do tons and tons of healing to keep your group alive. It is very, very difficult. So, last two here, then the healer needed mana, and then we're on to the next boss. So, this boss is really interesting. So, there's two main things that happen with this boss. Number one, she's going to spawn an ad, and the ad needs to be nuked down immediately. Number two is she'll do the bowling ball. We've all seen the bowling ball, okay? That's going to target something. You can bait the cast of the bowling ball, and you can bait the cast of the ad. And you need to make sure you're doing those things correctly to maximize the space that you have in this boss fight. Because this boss fight takes place on the entire ring. And if you're on a Tyrannical week like we are now, you're going to have to use a decent amount of that ring. So Joe has already told us he wants to pull the boss counterclockwise. He wants to go to the left here, okay? So I was pre-positioning myself kind of in the middle here, ready to go to the left. So she's doing her ritual of blaze binding. That is the ad that's about to come out. So here comes the ad. Joe's gonna pull the boss into the ad, and then we're gonna nuke them down together. Now she's gonna do molten boulder. Thank God somebody was over here and they baited it to go over that way. Now the ad's gonna die. The rest of this fight, we want to be baiting all of her abilities as close to this fire patch as we can. So I'm going to move close to this fire patch here so that I am going to be baiting the molten boulder. I'm actually moving away from the fire patch. I don't know why. But see, the molten boulder is now going backwards because we're going left. So we want all the abilities to go right. Okay? So the molten boulder is going backwards. That's perfect. And then the ad is going to spawn really, really soon here. And we're hoping it's going to spawn. There we go. I think it basically spawned on me. I should have been actually more towards the fire. That was a mistake. But the ad spawned really close. We don't even have to do any movement. We can just continue our AoE damage and nuke this ad down really quickly. Make sure to kick Roaring Blaze. That's really important. Make sure you kick that thing. And then we're going to keep moving. You just rinse and repeat. Now, there's a lot of just damage going off in general on this fight. So just be aware of that. Pop Fade as much as you possibly can. Now, I'm baiting correctly here. And boom, I get boulder right on my head. This is perfect. This is exactly what I wanted to do. I get the boulder to be cast right on my head so that we don't have any extra fire damage going towards the area that we're trying to go to next. This is exactly how you want to do it. Yeah, make sure you're using Fade. Make sure you're using Vampiric Embrace basically on cooldown in this fight. It's so important. Use your Shadow Crash when the ad comes out. You can see I'm using my Shadow Word Death on this boss, and I'm cleaving that Shadow Word Death damage onto the ad. And I get a reset on Shadow Word Death because this chick is within her execute window, right? So remember to always optimize your damage that way as well. If you have bosses with ads in them, you need to use your Shadow Word Death on the lower health targets to get that extra proc and optimize your damage that way, okay? Really important there. Okay, so this is basically the entire fight. Somebody threw a boulder this direction. That is a mistake. If this was a higher level key and we needed to continue this fight like around the bend, that new boulder placement that somebody put there would be in our way. That would be a huge problem. So it's very important to bait the boulders and the ad spawns in the right spot. Here's an interesting part here. You can Mass Dispel all these guys with shields on them. You can see I'm pre-positioning my Mass Dispel. It's going to get rid of all the little arcane ads that are there. Boom. And then they're going to cast Crackling Detonation. They get very mad when they lose all their shields. So you have to just, I'd like to get rid of all of them at the same time. It's very, very good to just say, let's get rid of all of them at once, and then we'll move forward and we can keep doing damage to the real enemies here. Okay, there's a bunch of damage coming out here from kind of these mini bosses. Again, I forget about the affix, the seasonal affix. This thing is honestly maybe the most annoying seasonal affix that I've ever played with. It's really frustrating. But we still get our damage off anyway. Get about 80k going on here, which is really good. That's because of Deathspeaker and because of our big damage from our Mindbender. You can see we've got 5 stacks of bursting at the end here, so I Mass Dispel the entire thing. Again, need to be doing this on cooldown basically as a Shadow Priest. It'll save your healer so much mana. They will thank you so much if you do that kind of stuff. So this week in particular is a great week to be a Shadow Priest, okay? Now, these last couple of ad packs are fine. You basically just need to try and kick the Flame Channeler. Excuse me. He's going to be casting an ability in a second. Hopefully he doesn't die here. Flash Fire. This is the ability right here. You want to try and kick that or fear it with Psychic Scream or whatever you want to do. If you have the stun from the talent tree, if you've got Psychic Horror, you can use it on him there as well. Then we get into this next pack, and you need to be very, very careful here. I make a really critical error because of my health bars. You can see, for whatever reason, my cursor's up here. I think I'm clicking on this guy right here. I think I'm targeting this guy, but I'm actually targeting the guy behind him. And I end up hitting the stupid ad behind him. So I thought I was casting on this Tempest Channeler, and I just completely screwed it up, and I was casting actually on the guys behind him. You do not want to pull these two packs together. This is a critical error from me, but thankfully our healer and our tank were absolutely ridiculous. They're so good, and everybody was pumping a lot of damage, and we managed to survive this little encounter, but this is not how I would recommend you pull this. It is efficient to pull it this way. Don't get me wrong. It's very efficient. It allows your DPS to just pump crazy amounts of damage, but it's not ideal. You will die on higher keys trying to pull it this way. So just, yeah, because the lightning storm's going off, and then the other guy's going to start channeling his ability as well. It's just not ideal. Flash fire is going off. Like, you're just going to die repeatedly. I'm out of mana here. I can't heal myself anymore. I do have Desperate Prayer. Oh, I died there. Yeah, so there's like just a couple too many detonations that go off there. I think both of the shamans get themselves back up, which is good. And we do end up salvaging this pull. It actually ended up working out probably in our favor. That was actually worked out fine. Then you can pull these ads together. So I pull both of these packs together with a Mind Flay. Once they both get together, I just mass dispel them. Okay? Boom, they're gone. And then they're going to do all the little detonations, and that's it. Now we can do the final boss. Now, again, do not pull that final pack. You don't need to pull that final pack that way at all. You don't need to be fancy with it. Just pull small packs at the end of this dungeon because these enemies are so incredibly deadly. Like, it's just brutal. Here's the final boss. Eckhart Stormvein. This is a really interesting fight. What I've basically learned from talking to some of the guys on Discord and some of the guys in the guild is that you really need to focus down Kairaka, the dragon. The dragon is the most dangerous part of this boss fight by far. She does the roaring fire breath, and then she spits on everybody periodically and does a whole bunch of damage. I keep locking myself like an absolute idiot. So she's going to do... He does the wind ability. She does this spit ability. Did she do it right there on sleep? I think she did. So she's going to do the roaring fire breath for a while, but really the most dangerous ability that she's going to end up doing is that ability. Let me just look it up in the dungeon journal here so that I can stop saying it's a spit ability. Here we go. The Inferno Core is the big one that she ends up doing. So her flame spit will ignite you, and her roaring breath will ignite you. So all of the abilities from the dragon will infect you with this Inferno Core, and it does so much damage over time. It is absolutely stupid. Now, again, stupid thundering affix goes off. I feel like an absolute idiot. We are splitting our damage here. We should not be doing that. We should be focusing almost all of our damage on Kairaka, because here comes the split. Once he jumps on top of the dragon, she starts flame spitting 3 people instead of 1, and you can see the damage everybody's taking here. Everybody's just getting wrecked by that flame spit. And then there's the puddles on the ground. And then he's going to push the wind. I lock myself again. The wind is going to blow here. And it's going to push the fire around. So look at this. The fire is moving with me. If I touch that fire, I will get the fire dot, the Inferno Core on me again. So very important to watch out for that Inferno Core. It is so nasty, man. It is going to absolutely annihilate you. So just be aware of that. This is the biggest problem with this fight. This is why you want to kill the dragon first. If you kill Kairaka first, then there's no longer any flame spits. There's no longer any flame breath. All the hard parts of the fight are gone. All you're left with is the guy, and he's easy to kill on his own. He really, really is. So finally, I didn't get interrupted with interrupting cloudburst there. I'm stuck over here now with the seasonal affix, and I'm inside a bunch of flame patches here, and there's really no way for me to get to anybody else unless I run over top of the fire. So I opt to just do as much damage as I possibly can before dying here, and I end up getting hit with the seasonal mechanic, and I am alive right now. Joe almost gets knocked off the edge, so I actually grip Joe over here just to give him a better position, and then I die to flame spit, and Joe ends up finishing off the fight. So this fight gets really, really messy really fast. It ends up being like everything's fine, everything's fine, everything's fine, and then suddenly everybody's dead. Like, look at this. We're all kind of fine here, and then suddenly everybody gets hit with flame spit, and they step into a fire puddle, and now everybody's about to die. There's Flame Spit, Healer dies, Turbo dies, Sleep dies. I'm alive still because I've been popping all my defenses, but now I'm about to die as well, and I can't hand off my seasonal affix to anybody. So just be aware of this fight. Your positioning is so incredibly important on this fight, and mitigating Flame Spit. Obviously, I couldn't mitigate it there, but having defensives ready like Fade, having Vampiric Embrace ready, flash healing yourself. If you flash heal yourself and you have Protective Light, then you take 10% less damage for 10 seconds. That's a big deal. 10% less damage and then 10% less damage from Fade means 20% less damage taken overall. That's pretty fantastic. So those are really, really important. And then, of course, Dispersion being your big tool that you have to get the damage reduction going for that. So you have to time those things perfectly on this fight, or else you will die, and you're just going to end up, not being able to time the key, because that will really ruin your day if you just die to this boss, and maybe you've only got like 7 minutes or 5 minutes left, and you can't time the key because of that. So this is a very, very tough boss. I think that the first boss of this key and the final boss of this key are potentially the most difficult. Let's go back to the other one here. Are the most difficult. I think the middle boss on this key is actually kind of fine. Once you figure out the strategy for dealing with the middle boss, the Kokaya Blazehoof, it's actually not as hard. But the first boss, Melidrusa and Kairaka at the end, are very difficult. Remember, for Melidrusa, just to recap here, for Melidrusa, you want to save your AoE damage until the Awakened Whelps comes out, okay? Because that only happens twice. They will do Cold Claws on the tank, and they'll eventually freeze the tank solid, which is very, very bad. They need to be focused down with your AoE damage as soon as they come out. You can also pull people out of Chillstorm. You can Leap of Faith somebody out of Chillstorm to save them from taking the fall-off damage, okay? Now, with Kokaya Blazehoof, remember to pick a direction you're going. Either go clockwise or counterclockwise, and then drop all of the crap. All the fire pits and stuff need to go on the opposite side of whichever way you're traveling. So you're going to need to bait the boulder and bait the ad spawn to, like, behind the group. Does that make sense? Like, behind wherever the group's traveling, okay? That's really important. And then on Kairaka and Eckhart, you really want to kill Kairaka first. Kill the dragon first. And if you do that, you're going to get rid of Inferno Core, you're going to get rid of the Embers, you're going to get rid of Flame Spit, Roaring Fire Breath, and you'll just be left with the Winds of Change, which won't do anything anymore, realistically, because there's no flame patches on the ground anymore from Kairaka. And then Storm Slam, which is the tank mechanic, and usually the tanks can handle the tank mechanic. So again, just strategies. You want to make sure you kill the dragon first, especially as a range character. The dragon's gonna fly around a lot, and the melee can't really get to her very easily at the beginning of the fight. You can, though, as a range character still. You can keep hitting her with all your damage, so make sure you're focus firing the dragon down. And that's it, guys. That was our build. That was the no idle build. We did end up doing about 40k overall. Yeah, 41k overall. Not bad, actually, at all. I'm pretty happy with that. We were keeping up with the Enhancement Shaman, and then Sleep was just crushing up ahead at the top there, which is good for him. There's probably a better build where I can do more damage, but I just want to say one quick thing about the Mind Spike build. One really good thing about it is the flexibility that comes with this build. Because you have a lot of instant cast Mind Spikes, and you're giving yourself instant cast Mind Blasts because of Mind Melt, reducing the cast time of Mind Blast. You can really move and do damage at the same time with this build. If you're doing the channeling build with Dark Evangelism and Screams and Cthulhu, you need to stand still and channel a lot. And as you saw on that Kairaka, the last fight, like, all the flame patches that were on the ground, they're all moving with the Winds of Change. Like, you don't have time to stand still and try to do damage. So I feel like the flexibility of this build is really nice that way, giving you the option of moving around and doing damage. So that's it for today, guys. That is the Ruby Life Pools. I hope that helps you time your Ruby Life Pools a little bit more. The Tyrannical version of this fight, I think, of this dungeon is much harder than the Fortified one, because the bosses just hit so hard and their abilities hit so hard. So I hope this helps you to time your Ruby Life Pools. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I hope you're having a wonderful week and well. I hope you all have a very, very, very Merry Christmas, and I will see you in the next one.